All right. How's it going, everyone? I hope you guys had a good weekend. I got a special guest on with you guys for you guys today. Please introduce yourself, man.
My name is Zach. I used to be an Army interrogator, and now I make YouTube videos sometimes about lie detection when other people are lying.
Okay. So you're kind of right up the alley. I spoke to you briefly via messaging on Instagram, seeing how this could have some crossover appeal. You being an interrogator, what exactly does an interrogator in the Army do? We'll just talk about that, and then we'll start your story. We'll just have you take it from wherever you want to start.
Okay, well, in 2006, I was very poor and getting evicted, and so I needed a lifeline. And at that time, the war was ramping up in Iraq, and so I joined the Army, basically going to the recruiter's office on a Friday, and Monday I'm shipping out. But before you join the Army, you take a test called the ASVAB, which is just like it's a test to see what kind of jobs in the military you're suited for. And I scored really high, so I could get any job I wanted. And when they're going through the list, they start with military intelligence, and they're like, do you want to be an intelligence analyst? Like, no, that doesn't sound fun. Do you want to be a human intelligence collector? I was like, what's a human intelligence collector? Oh, you'll be doing interrogations and source operations. I was like, okay, I'll sign. Let's go do that. And then I went to basic. At that time, they were doubling my MOS from 3,500 soldiers to 7,000 soldiers.
Oh,
So
wow.
anyone who had airborne in their contract got to go to airborne school in between basic and AIT. AIT is like your job school in the military. Typically, you would go to a school like airborne after AIT. And so there was 21 of us that showed up that already had our airborne wings, and our first sergeant there was airborne. And when you get to AIT, you have like restrictions you have to follow. And because she was airborne and we were airborne, we immediately got full privileges while everyone else was stuck on base.
Okay. So what does Army interrogator? What is the description of the job? Is it like you're a lawyer? Is it just intelligence gathering? What exactly is it?
Intelligence gathering through human sources. So half the job is interrogation. It's like the stereotypical thing where you're in a room and you're talking to one person and trying to get info from them. The other half of the job is where you'll actually go out on patrols with the infantry, and you will meet with village elders and try to recruit sources and gather intelligence that way. And so my first deployment was to Afghanistan, and the majority of the time I was actually doing patrols, going out, meeting with village elders at shuras, which are just like the meetings for the local tribes, and then trying to find people that my favorite Afghan I ever met was a guy, I call him Afghan Bob. His daughter almost stepped on an IED by the Taliban. And so that radicalized him against the Taliban. And then week after week, I don't know how he was finding them, but he would go out and find the IEDs and just bring them to the base for us, already decommissioned.
Oh, he probably had friends out. Where are they today, man? Just goes and grabs them, you know. Oh
Yeah.
man. Hey, at least he brought them. You know, just one less you guys had to worry about. You
Yeah.
know.
So the majority of my job was just sitting there and talking to people and getting to learn about their culture and country. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, man. That's one way to learn. Are you fluent in Arabic?
No. So
Oh, okay.
like I was saying, they were doubling the MOS. So my job in the military, it used to include DLI, Defense Language Institute, where you would get a language. So before you go to your first unit, you would learn language. But because the war was ramping up and they were getting so many new interrogators, they were just pushing people out. And so I would have gotten a language, probably like Arabic or Pashto, but because they just needed to get us deployed, we didn't. And we mostly used interpreters.
Okay. All right. So you guys have a little bit of a background on what an interrogator does and why he went to the Army. You want to? Do you have any? Everyone kind of has a basic training. Everyone that I've spoken to has kind of a funny basic training story. There was one guy like the private pilot of the unit who just couldn't get right. Or could you share a story like that? Like is something funny that happened in basic, or someone who like went to throw a grenade and went backwards? That actually, my dad had that happen to him in his unit.
Yeah, so in basic, you will have three drill sergeants. One of ours left halfway through basic, and the other was retiring, so he was just kind of checked out. So we only had really one drill sergeant during the day, and he can't be there 24/7. So at night, a bunch of other soldiers took advantage of this, and they would sneak out and they would go like get off base they would go buy clothes off homeless people and then go to strip clubs and then come back at like 5 in the morning.
Wow. Hey, whatever you got to do to make work, right? You
Yeah.
know.
And then they would also go to like convenience stores and buy candy and smuggle it back onto the base. And then they would sell it to all the other privates.
Hey, that's a good hustle though. What
Yeah.
was the markup? What was they selling like Reese's for or something?
Oh, I have no idea. I went to basic in 2006. This is a long
Oh,
time
okay.
ago.
Okay, I got you. So your time through basic, was it pretty uneventful? Was it did you just kind of go through basic training, then did you go to like you said airborne in between
Yeah.
basic and IT?
One more thing about basic, you're very close off to the outside world. You don't have TVs, you don't have phones, you don't know what's going on. And so like about 2 or 3 weeks in, our drill sergeants told us that we were at war with North Korea. And so that we need to pay attention because as soon as we're here, we're probably getting shipped out to go fight North Koreans.
Yeah, they just aren't teaching you how to stay warm yet. You know, they're
Yeah.
sending you to the desert. Next, they're going to send you to the tundra. So you went through basic, and is airborne called Halo? Is that the same thing?
No, airborne is just like basic parachuting. Halo is high altitude, low opening. So that's more an advanced airborne school that a lot of people from special forces would go through.
Okay. So between jump school or airborne school and basic training, which one was kind of more physically demanding? I'd be guessing that basic would be just because they're trying to get you in shape and
Basic. It was tough. I went into the army at 230 pounds and I came
okay.
out like by the time I went to airborne school, I was 190. I was
Oh
very
wow.
sedentary before I joined the army and it was very, very physically demanding for me.
Okay. So yeah, they busted you. They had the hands full with you, I bet. But
Yeah.
okay. So man, I've always wanted to skydiving, man. So how is not halo jumping, but like how is airborne school? Is it just, like you said, basic parachute? But are you jumping full gear first? Are you like building up to it? How do they go about teaching you to jump with upwards of 50 to 100 pounds of gear on top of you?
Yeah, it's only 3 weeks long. So the first 2 weeks, you're just building out, learning how to do something called a parachute landing fall. It's just how to properly fall while you're it's called static line where you're doing just basic parachuting. And so they start at low where you're just on the ground and you jump up and you fall. And then they slowly work you up until you're at this tower, like 250 feet that used to be a carnival ride. And then the final week, you're just doing 5 jumps. And I think the third or the fourth and the fifth are the ones where you have all the combat gear.
Okay. So is it really different jumping with that combat gear on versus without? Is it really that because you can get injured easier landing, or is it just need more parachute, more drag or something?
Oh no, the parachute can handle way more than we ever jump with.
Okay.
But when you're jumping with the combat gear, it's kind of strapped in front of you. And when you have to guess when you're about 50 feet off the ground, you basically pull a cord, it unlatches and it falls and it's 30 feet below you. And so that's going to hit the ground first. And then that's where you can kind of do this teeter totter thing. But it's fun overall.
Okay. So it's like a weeble wobble. You're trying not to
Yeah.
with the weight of balancing act. All right. So you get done with Halo School, Halo School, excuse me, Airborne. Do you do any other? They send you anywhere else, or now are you going to train to be an interrogator?
Training to be an interrogator.
So walk me through that schooling. What is it? What's it consist of? What's a day like? How are your trainers? Just like kind of lay it out. Because not a lot of people know about this.
It's 6 days a week, 12 hours each day.
Oh wow.
It's broken up into 3 parts. So the first part of the school, phase one, would be like the actual interrogations, where you're taught how to question and what order to question and all that stuff. The second, it moves into source operations, where you kind of do like spy stuff, where you're learning how to recruit sources, where you're learning how to meet with people secretly and how to do like all kinds of signals. So if you need to meet with the source, they will teach you like you can leave things out in a specific place, like a chalk mark X on the ground, and so they know the meeting's going through. They teach you how to look for tells and how to avoid being spotted, and that if you think you're being followed by the enemy, you can leave a different symbol. So when the source shows up, they see one of two symbols and they know whether the meeting's happening or not.
Okay. So it's kind of like that sounds like some old school spy stuff you hear about, like the flower in the window. It's kind of
Exactly.
But so for six or 12-hour days, 6 days a week and 12-hour days, so what are some of the techniques there? Can you talk about it? Like, if you can't talk about something, just tell me, if I'm asking something that shouldn't be known. What are some of the techniques they're teaching you interrogation wise? Because the police use some, interrogators use some, DAs use some, and they got different types.
They'll teach you to look for the motivation of the person. For some people, it might be love of country. For Americans, that's going to work really well. And somewhere like Afghanistan, where they're more tribal, it's going to be like love of family. I think there was like 13 specific techniques that they taught us. One would be like pride and ego up, where you're trying to build up their pride and ego, how they're doing the right thing. There's one called pride and ego down, where it's like basically you're a horrible person, you're a disgusting terrorist. It's just, think of it like when you're trying to pick up a woman at a bar. There's different techniques you use based on the scenario and situation and the woman.
Okay. So they have you, and so this was how many months of this was this?
It's about 4 months.
About 4 months. So you're going through and you're probably having a good time because you're interested in this. It's something you want to do. Now, is there some type of off the wall training they threw at you that you're like, oh, wait a minute, like I wasn't expecting to be able to do this? Like, is there any close quarter combat just in case you get in a situation, something like that?
Yeah, that's more basic combat training. So they
Okay.
go over like all the standard like infantry, or not standard infantry, but like the standard military stuff that you would think of that you would need to know. For AIT, advanced individualized training, that's just specifically for your job. So they didn't really teach us any kind of like combat skills in that. It was just mostly strictly job training.
Okay. I know the Navy runs it, but did you ever talk to anyone or send anyone to Gitmo, Guantanamo? No.
No.
Okay. That was one from the old man. He's got another one. I'll say it and you can either like nod yes or no. I'll be like enhanced interrogation techniques. They teach you any of those? Like you can't.
I was in the Army, not the CIA, so I couldn't do that. Also, after there was that Abu Ghraib scandal that happened, I think in 2003 in Iraq, with like the torture scandal.
Mhm.
And so I joined a couple years after that, and they were very, very strict in hammering home what is and isn't torture, and you can't do this, do not do this. Like the first interrogation I ever did in Afghanistan, I had to get a medic to clear them first, basically create a paper trail. Does this person have bruises? What kind of condition are they in? And then after I finish the interrogation, that same medic has to come in and do a full report again. Are there any new bruises? Is there anything that has happened to them? So it got, after that torture scandal, the Army got very, very strict on it.
Okay. So that's something I think the public has a misnomer about, and that obviously people knew enhanced interrogation techniques were being used, but it wasn't by the armed forces. It was by intelligence agencies more so than anyone, huh?
Well, after 2003, for sure, no. Like the regular Army, not doing that stuff. The actual torture scandal that happened, it was mostly military police, National Guard from Texas. They're like all those photos that went viral on the news, those were all military police. But I can't confirm this. I don't know for sure. I was never in the CIA, but I'm pretty sure the CIA is still doing enhanced interrogations.
Oh, they have to be. It's just it's nuts. But yeah, that whole scandal in 2003 that changed a lot. That put a lot of red tape up. So even like if you had to treat a subject as hostile, how would you go about it? Then how would you try and manipulate him? And how would you how would you just treat someone who's being hostile towards you?
Okay, just let me go ahead and tell you about my first interrogation.
Okay.
So this was probably a month into my first deployment, which was Afghanistan. I was very nervous. And so we caught 3 guys on the mountain. They were shooting rockets at our fob. And the infantry goes out there. There's only 3 people out there. They said they're goat herders. There's no goats inside. And so they grab them and bring it back to the base. And so I start the interrogation with one of them. It's just very simple. Hey, what is your name? Do you know why you're here? You're basically just trying to ease into it. You don't want to go full throttle right away. And so he's not saying anything. He's just sitting there deadpan like this. And then he kind of sits back in his chair and starts doing this. And I joined not long after the torture scandal. So I am freaking out that this guy, I'm going to go to jail. I'm the one who's going to go to Gitmo. I'm going to military prison. This guy's having a seizure. I call the medic in. The medic comes in, takes one look at him, and then pulls me out of the room. And he's like, he's faking it. I'm like, are you sure he's faking it? Yeah, he's 100% faking it. I was like, okay, are you going to sign that he's faking it? You'll put your name on it. He's like, yeah, okay. And so then I realized that I left my interpreter in the room alone with him. So I start freaking out from that, and I run back into the room. The guy still faking it. My interpreter's safe. So I grab my interpreter and I bring him out of the room. I'm like, hey, this guy's faking the seizure. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back in. You sit down in front of him. Just start asking him the same baseline questions again. And then I'm going to walk behind him. I'm going to take this water ball. I'm going to throw it at the wall as hard as I can. As soon as it explodes, he's going to sit up. We're going to make eye contact. He knows I know he's faking it. And then we can continue from there. And so then we go back in. We do exactly that. John, the interpreter, sits down, starts talking to him. I walk behind him. I take the water bottle, adrenaline pump. I throw it against the wall as hard as I can. It explodes. The guy starts faking a seizure, looks up, looks over at the wall, and then looks at me. And then he kind of gives a smirk. And he goes back to faking his seizure. Yeah. And so then I ended the interrogation there. There's not really much you can do when they're hostile, especially if they're just going to sit there and not talk.
Yeah, they're just going to fake, or they're going to try and fall on the ground and fake an injury or something, to get you worried about nothing, But
yeah, he actually had a reverse interrogation manual that the Taliban was giving out to people on him. Like, they're trained how to resist interrogations. So he got me good. He punked me big time.
Did you read it?
No,
you didn't. Oh, okay.
I was low man on the totem pole. I was only an E2 by the time I got to Afghanistan.
Oh, okay.
So everyone on the base outranked me.
I got you. Yeah, no, that would have been something that your higher up should have had you been reading. That's good intel for everyone on the same side. So you go through that. That's your first interrogation. When did you have the first one that was like a cat and mouse? Usual suspects, where it's like your Kaiser Soze versus you. And you had to decipher what was real and what wasn't. And it was like, shit, this all sounds good, That was just
I didn't have any.
hard.
I didn't have any movie moments like that for interrogations. Like when I first got to Afghanistan, you would do like a practice interrogation with a real detainee, and you would have like a seasoned interrogator there watching you. And as soon as we all sat in the room, the guy, he just started spilling his beans and telling everything that he knew about the Taliban. There was no questioning. We didn't break him. He just immediately spilled the beans.
So was that pretty common?
Yeah.
Hey, dude, you got a bunch of 6'2" fucking operators with beards in there and sunglasses, and you come walking in. That's an intimidating fucking dude walking up to you,
Well, for my first deployment, I was with the regular army, the 173rd. There's a documentary called Restrepo that's all about that. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. My second deployment to Iraq was with Special Forces when I was in 5th group. Those were like the 6'2" bearded burly guys.
So you were okay. So how is it? What's the language? Because I said it wrong. I said you were a Special Forces interrogator, but you were an interrogator attached to a Special Forces unit.
Yeah, how every unit works, like with the Special Forces unit, you're going to have Special Forces, which are the Green Berets. Those are the guys that go through like the 2 years of training. They wear the actual Green Beret. Those are the operators. For every unit, you're going to have support roles. So like for ammo, supplies, transportation, there's a bunch of people who aren't Green Berets that are in the unit to assist the Green Berets. So I was an interrogator in a Special Forces unit. So they would actually go out and do like the cool guy missions. They would do tactical interrogations on the spot, and then they would bring detainees back with them. And then when they brought those people back, those are who I interrogated when I was in 5th group.
Okay, so did you they would bring you back people and interrogate? You never had to interrogate any of them. You weren't out there, kind of like if someone got in trouble, they wouldn't bring you to talk to anyone.
No, no.
Okay, so you were strictly intelligence gathering, which is actually pretty goddamn cool. So they would go out. What were some of the? Do you ever come across any of the deck of cards or like any big name guys you ever talk to or they bring in?
No, no. When I was on the army, I only got up to E4. It's kind of a lower rank. So like the high value targets, the people who would be on those cards, those are usually like CIA top level people that are going to be interrogating them. The people that have like 10 plus years experience, they've been to all these other kind of cool guy schools that have way more experience than I ever got to.
Okay, okay, so you were going around talking to local leaders though. How was dealing with the locals and I from what I've seen in documentaries, not movies, but it's kind of it's real hard pleasing them. Like they're real fickle, and they can go back and forth on a whim. Maybe it's just the drama that the documentary people put in, but like they weren't disrespectful. They were just real flim flam. Like what side they land on that day.
There's a huge cultural divide. So my first deployment when I got to Afghanistan, I was only 22 and I could grow the worst beard possible. And in that culture, age and beards are highly respected, and I didn't have either. So it was very difficult. People that were about my age, it was easy to talk to, but the village elders, they would be very wishy-washy. They would make plans, not show up. They would be on Afghan time. So like we're gonna meet at noon, they might show up at 3. It was definitely a huge culture shock and an extreme culture divide that was very difficult to deal with.
So you're dealing with the culture divide. What was one of the I guess you could say accomplishments of like breaking through? Like you guys are now allowed to go through this area, or like we're bringing water in here, and they're going to help you with intel. Any deals you struck like that, or
Yeah, that probably the thing I'm most proud about in Afghanistan is the guy I mentioned earlier, Afghan Bob, the guy that had his daughter almost killed by the Taliban. So this went on for months where he was bringing us decommissioned IEDs and IED parts. And then the very last mission I went on, there was like this big 13 Humvee convoy where we went out and set up a patrol base. Typically, you would go near a village and you would let them know that you're there. And a big thing is that local Afghans didn't want to work with us because we would show up and then when we leave. So if they worked with us, the Taliban would come and mess them up. They would probably go and kill them if they saw they were working with Americans. So what the U.S. Army started doing is you go out to these villages, you set up patrol bases, you turn them into FOBs. And so if you have an American military presence next or near to that town, those people are far more willing to work with you. And so the very last one we're on, where we're going through that process of setting up the new FOB, Afghan Bob was just driving through. He drove several hours to come find me because he's like, hey, the Taliban is going to come shoot at you guys tomorrow from that mountain over there about noon. I just wanted to let you know. And
wow,
so after working with this guy for months, I created a relationship where he went out of his way to let me know when we were
yeah,
going to get attacked. And so then as soon as it hit noon, they start shooting exactly from where the guy said they were going to be shooting. And then all our Humvees just unload on them. And it only lasted like a minute. It was pretty cool.
wow. So was that is pretty cool, man. To have someone like that on your side over there is it's got to feel like kind of an accomplishment, but also like to have a personal friendship where he'll drive hours just to give you a heads up.
Yeah.
That's hey, that you did your job for sure, and more on that one.
And he
But
never asked for money. A typical thing when you're like recruiting sources, a lot of people are motivated by greed. And so you can just pay them. They'll rat out whoever. They don't care if they get enough money. They're good. They'll rat out their boss. They'll rat out their terrorist friends. They don't really care about them. So the typical thing is you would pay your sources for the information. And every single time, Afghan Bob denied it. He wasn't motivated by money. He was just motivated by like, these guys suck. I'll help you.
okay, well that's even rarer. No, that's really rare. What were some other than money? What were some of the things you would you give them to try and pull them? Like what are some of the? There's got to be a couple good ones. Good
Oh, and
good things.
porno mags.
I thought that wasn't allowed.
Well, yeah, it's illegal in that country, but
Yeah, yeah. They have hey, there's that really bad thing they got over there where they got that saying. I'm curious, man, if you ever saw it. It's not really funny, but that boys are for fun and women are for reproduction.
Yeah, Banshee Boss.
You want to talk
I never
about?
saw it. I never witnessed it, but it does,
Okay.
especially in the majority of Afghanistan. It's like tribal. They're very cut off from civilization, where they wouldn't have TVs, they wouldn't have electricity, they wouldn't even have running water. They're literally living in mud huts, and so that makes up the majority of the country. And those people, yeah, they take the some people call them the Chai Boys. The actual name for it is Bachi Bas, where they would dress up prepubescent men or prepubescent boys and then use them for
Yeah, that was yeah, John McPhee, Shrek. I'm sure. Have you heard that name? He's been on
I
YouTube
have.
and stuff. Yeah, Delta or the unit, and he said that when he went on one of his missions, that literally a giant water buffalo, the kids were sleeping on a giant water buffalo to stay warm. Oh man, and hey, he called them savages. Is I can't really argue with them, but it, it's fucked up. But I feel bad for the kids, but hey, that's why sometimes westernization is not a bad thing.
Yeah, we have it pretty good. There was
Mhm.
like when I first got back from Afghanistan, I had this it's hard to explain, but I kind of had this hatred for my fellow Americans because you go over there and you see how bad it is. And then you come back to somewhere like America and it's like I've always had running water, I've always had a toilet, I've always had just so many privileges just being born in America. There's so many advantages to being here. And then to see the things that people would complain about, it's like you don't understand how bad it is. You have it good. You shouldn't be complaining.
Most, I would say, excuse me, I would say at least 75% of Americans. I mean, I'm probably lowballing it. Have never been out of the country. Excuse me, let alone a third world country. And I've been to Mexico and I've been to Jamaica, and neither of those places is running water guaranteed.
Yeah,
And at both places, don't drink the water.
yeah,
And if you go somewhere and you see the kind of, if you go away from the resorts, just 5 minutes either way, you'll see some shit. You'll see kids on the corner with big pot bellies with fucking vegetables for sale at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It just stuff you just wild dogs everywhere. The dogs are some, I don't know if it's a third world special or what, but wild dogs are a big thing. And just, but the weird thing is that people are generally happy.
yeah,
They're generally smiling, happy people, and they get a bad rap. But some of them, but yeah, they're just generally happier people. I don't know. It's because less is more, or just less stress, or just ignorance is bliss. Not having first world problems.
yeah,
Like yesterday, 5 of my family members died, and I'm still here, so they got something to smile about. Here it's everyone focuses on the negative, and everyone's involved in drama, and everyone's self-centered, and oh my god, I can't get this in 24 hours. What am I going to do? Fuck Amazon.
our lives
So
are too easy. Yeah,
yeah, so it's just it is crazy, man. But I understand what you're saying, especially imagine the culture shock that the dudes were in who left in like 2014 and came back in like the end of 2014, and when all this woke shit came into play in late 2015, 2016, all the boys coming back on, what the fuck is this shit? That's a dude. You can't you can't slap tits on a bull and call it a fucking cow. So it just it just I mean, it just there had to be some culture shock even for you. You leave, you forget, you come back, and then you see that shit.
yeah.
And the ungrateful people, and yeah, man, I get it. And then this country has a horrible history of disrespecting the veterans, from all the way from what Korea, what I would say Korea on to the day. Korea, the veterans were kind of shit on. Not nothing like Vietnam, but and then you got the wars of today. But I think it's a lot of, like you said, ungrateful little brats, man.
I would say today veterans are treated pretty well. Like the reputation that veterans have, the general attitude that your average American will have towards them, getting free meals quite often. I think today it's pretty good to be a veteran, way better than it was for Vietnam veterans.
Yeah, yeah. Desert Storm, it got a little better, but you still have the schools of thought of, oh, we should have never been there, and fuck you, you're a mercenary. It's like, why don't you stay home? Just stay home, and let the vets go out and do their thing and leave them alone. You don't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, so let's get back to your you come back from Afghanistan. How long are you on leave before you do you redeploy to Iraq or this time or Afghanistan?
No, my first duty station was in Germany. So I deployed to
Okay.
Afghanistan from Germany. When I got back from Afghanistan, I got 3 weeks of leave. And so then I flew back to America and just partied for 3 weeks. And then I went back to Germany. I was there for about a year. And then I got orders to go to my next unit, which was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky with 5th Group.
What is 5th Group? Is that a Ranger or is that a Green Beret or what is that?
Green Beret, 5th Special
Green
Forces
Beret?
Group.
Okay. So, hey, how was it like being around those guys? Was it just did they have a different way of carrying themselves than like say a Ranger or like a just a basic infantryman or airborne?
They were way different than I was expecting them to be. Like from before the army, my only experience with Green Berets was like movies and TV shows. And so I was fully expecting like these type A in your face kind of people. And then you meet them and they're really chill, they're really relaxed, they're really low key. They were nothing like I was expecting them to be like. I guess that's because when you have all that training and you can kill 30 men with a spoon, you're kind of must relax you a lot.
I'll kill you with my teacup, like
Yeah.
Vin Diesel in Chronicles of Rick. I always like that one. I'll kill you with my teacup. But
It's kind of similar like when you first start going to the gym and you're fat and you have all these expectations that the big muscly dudes are going to make fun of you and put you down. And then when you get there and you ask any of them for help, they're immediately like, yeah, let me help you. What else do you need help with? And they're just it's not what I was expecting. They're super nice, very chill and willing to like, when I was in Iraq, there was a Green Beret in his downtime that would come and he was teaching me how to do combos. So he spent a lot of time just so someone who wasn't special forces could be better trained on how to use the radios.
okay, all right, yeah, no, that's cool, man. Because I'm just gonna say it. I think a lot of the ways that people think special forces act are because of the SEALs that they see on social media. David Goggins, Jocko, fucking that guy who screams at everyone. Anyway, I think it's because of the Navy SEALs they see and the stories that they tell, and I guess the saying could be a little true that with every SEAL, trident that they get pinned on underneath it, they get a what do they say? They get a journalism degree with it, so they can write their books and do social media. But
do you know where the most dangerous place to be in a war zone is? Between a Navy SEAL and a book deal.
Those who know will get that one. Yeah. No, and so you're in Iraq, right? What's the deployment different? Iraq and Afghanistan, how are they different? Obviously the terrain, it's urban, not urban, but like what are some of the key differences you're dealing with?
Oh, it's night and day difference. So in Afghanistan, I was with a regular army unit. And then when I was in Iraq, I was with a special forces unit. So the funding, it's astronomically higher. You get all the cool guy stuff. In Afghanistan, I maybe got to shower once a month. In Iraq, we had like AC. We weren't living in tents. We were living in like hooches, like 4 walls, AC. We got to take hot showers every day. We ate 4 meals a day. It was night and day difference.
That's good that you got AC, man. Oh man, that heat. Excuse me, that heat there. That ain't no joke.
It's tough. Yeah, it's hot.
With the get-ups you have to wear, the what is it? What do they call it? The camo, the digital camo. Is that the Desert Digital or whatever? The one that wasn't working.
ACUs, Army Combat Uniform.
Did you get there when they were handing out the ones that didn't work?
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with them because in Afghanistan, I was actually going out on patrols and getting dirty. So after a few days, your uniform is just
Okay.
caked in dirt and you're not going to be able to wash it for weeks. So you just kind of blend in. It doesn't matter what the camo pattern was. And then in Iraq, I mostly had a desk job. Like the special forces guys, they go out, get detainees, bring them back, and then I just get to sit there and talk to them. So I didn't have to worry about blending in.
Okay. So in when you're in Iraq, what would one of the biggest pieces of info that you ever personally I guess I would say harvested or you obtained? What was like one of the biggest where you like, oh, I got to get this to the boss real quick?
Nothing.
Nothing?
It
Really?
was very boring.
It was boring? Damn. So but they had you doing what? It was just they were just bringing you guys and they were just going through the motions, or you just wanted something to do, so you talked to them, or what?
Well, so when the special forces go out on a mission, they will sometimes, whether it's good or bad intel, when they get to a house and there's supposed to be like a terrorist there, they will wrap up all of the men and bring them back. And then you have to sift through and find out which ones are actually linked to this terrorist groups and which ones were just in the wrong place, wrong time. So quite often you're just talking to them, verify the story, and then let them go.
Okay. Did you ever go out? So you were doing patrols in Afghanistan. Did you ever go out with the Green Berets and watch them work and see what they can do?
No, I never got to do missions with them.
Oh, you never got to go out? Damn. Okay. Well, so after your Iraq, do you go back home? Do you go for new training? Because I know you ended up having an accident that led you to where you are today. So we kind of get into that.
Yeah, I came back around August of 2010, and then after a deployment, you get leave. And then October 1st, the the PT and like the regular army, it's kind of tough. But when you get to the physical training in a special forces unit, it's very difficult. And so part of just like regular morning PT, I was climbing a rope, part of an obstacle course. And it broke when I was about 25 feet in the air. And so then I fell and broke my back and both arms. And then basically after that, I got out of the army.
Okay. And then that led you to where you are today, which is what are you doing today, if you don't mind me asking?
Right now, just YouTube.
Just YouTube? Okay. And then
I can
your back is how are you doing with that, man? Because like you had some concerns about sitting down. You know, it's just like I said, I got chronic issues too. So it's just I kind of always ask people how they deal with it, so I can pick up new ways of pain relief.
yoga, lots of yoga.
Yoga.
Yeah.
That's people keep telling me that. I just have a problem sitting still. I got that ADD, man, and I got to do more meditation to calm it down.
Did you ever
But
watch wrestling growing up?
a little bit
You know
sometimes.
who Diamond Dallas Page is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he right now his big kick, he's doing like this huge DDP yoga. So it's more like yoga for men, so to speak. It's a lot better than all the other different types of yoga I tried. It's way more fun, way more energetic. It's definitely suited more for someone like me.
I think I saw him talking about it on a Rampage Jackson's podcast when he was on there. It sounds familiar because I watched the thing and he was saying he does something, but I didn't. I think he calls it something other than yoga, but Diamond Dallas Page yoga or something. But I think I've heard of it. It
Yeah,
used
if
to
you ever
remind me.
tried yoga before and didn't like it, I would definitely try DDP yoga.
No, dude. The only thing I was able to do was uh, what was that? The dead man pose where you lay on your back, and I just
Yeah.
because I'm not flexible and that shit hurts. It gets and they want you to hold it for a minute. I'm not, and then you got to be quiet. It's like, oh man, but yeah. So
After I got out of the army, I was a fire dancer for 10 years. So when I was going through physical therapy to help with hand-eye coordination for my arms, the doctor recommended juggling. And so then when I got out of the army and I didn't know what to do, one Christmas my mom bought me fire juggling stuff. And so then I just went around and started lying to people, telling them I was a professional fire juggler, professional fire dancer, and you should hire me for events because I live in a beach town, and so there's like a lot of tourism, a lot of entertainment. There's definitely a bunch of jobs for entertainers. And so I just basically used like all the interrogator skills I learned from the Army on how to talk to people, figure out what their motivations is, and overcome their objections, and just convince them that I was like a professional fire juggler. And so they started hiring me, and then I found other people, trained them, and it blew up for a while.
So you had like your own little fire juggler racket with people working for you, and
Yeah.
man, you got a little hustle in you, man. That's
Yeah,
cool.
a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. No, but yeah, no, it's thank you, man. I'm grateful you came on and talked to me, and I learned a lot, and I hope some people learn a lot too. Like I said, this I believe has crossover appeal because there's similarities in the genres we're in. Shout out your channel, your Instagram, anything you wanna shout out. Just go ahead, man.
On YouTube, it's Tardvark. It's a bunch of different videos. Like the next one I'm doing is just a bunch of my favorite facts about America, like how the 18th Amendment, it banned alcohol, and then we sobered up and realized that the next amendment should be give women the right to vote because we now support equality. And then a few years after we saw the consequences of that, we made drinking legal again.
That's a good one, man. So, and then your Instagram, if you want to shout that out.
It's Tardvark posting. Mostly that's just like the fire dancing and the juggling I do.
Okay. Yeah, you guys check it out. He's got some cool shit on there. And then I shared a video about Tim Kennedy. That can be left to everyone else. We don't got to talk about it. You already covered it. So yeah, man, thank you for coming on. If you got any questions or anything, just always get at me. If you see someone that you might want to have on your show, I might know them. Just ask me. So thank you for coming on, man, and spending time with me and talking about it.
Yeah, thank you. This is fun.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, I'm gonna end this and